Hey guys, this is Charles with Charlotte Area Historical Gamers, and today we're going to talk about how to learn how to play a maneuver using Wargame Room. And what we're going to do is run two instances of the Wargame Room program on your PC and learn how to play the game. And Maneuver is one of my favorite games by GMT Games because you can play so many different types of armies, so many different types of scenarios. It is a little bit abstract in the way that it plays. It comes with a bunch of terrain tiles that are mixed and laid in any fashion, so it doesn't really follow a historical type feeling. But the army cards are really what makes the game historical. It comes with about 8 or 10 different armies. And so you can take one copy of the game, and with the number of components in the base game, you can have 4 or 5 games of Maneuver running simultaneously. So if you want to run a game day and you have one copy of Maneuver, you can run, you just throw out a bunch of tiles and you kind of orient them in any way and play the game. So we're going to go to wargameroom.com. If you want to meet opponents online, you can go to Wargame Room Chat. I haven't had much luck with meeting a maneuver opponent there, but there is a Facebook site called Wargame Room Players. Whoops, why is it doing that? Wargame Room Players, and you can join that group and post that you're interested in playing maneuver, and possibly you'll find somebody to play, or you can go to Board Game Geek and try it that way. So we'll go to downloads and download the game maneuver here, right? And we're going to put that in a folder on our hard drive. And I like to call it WGR just for Wargame Room. You'll download a file called man15. After clicking on that, you're going to right click and extract that out to a folder. And you have a folder called man15. All right, so we're going to look for man.bat. If you're running a Windows 10 machine, you might get an error on this that says don't run. Just click on more info and run anyways. And when it first comes up, you're going to select new game, server, and it's going to give you your IP address if you're playing against somebody online, but we're going to play this against ourselves locally, so we'll just click OK. And then we're going to go and click this again, run it a second time, and pull this window over to the side, out of the way, right? And then pull this window here, and I'll explain that in just a second. It just helps keep things organized as far as where the pop-ups are. So we're going to select new game, and we're going to be the client on this side. So since we're playing on our local machine, the local machine IP address for everybody in the world is 127.0.0.1. Right? And after you click that, it will connect to the other instance that is running. And you'll just select which of the armies that you would like to play. So we'll go classic here. France. Okay, we'll go France against England. All right. So you'll stretch these any way that you like to make it better fit your screen. And you'll notice your cards are on the right-hand side here. And then you'll notice your opponent's cards here. And you'll click on anybody that you want to move around. So in Maneuver, the very first 2 rows are where you set all your units out. And the premise of the game is infantry move 1, cavalry moves 2. And so you can't move octagonally, so you have to move up 1 and then right 1 if you want to move 2 spaces. Some cards allow you to let force march units forward, but the premise of the game is in order to do an attack, you have to play a card, right? So every turn you must move a card. So let's finish setup here. Setup is kind of random. The terrain board is kind of random. The units are set up on the board here, and you can click on where you want these guys to be. I want this guy here, this guy here, cavalry on the sides, and this guy here. All right, so we've ended our setup. He'll switch over to the other player, and he'll have the same options there. And he'll like to probably want to get his cavalry in the mountains as quick as possible. So we end our setup here. And we're done setting up. So now you'll see the turns pop back and forth between the sides here. And we'll decide not to play the well, actually, I accidentally played the card. Um, you'll see the cards down here, right? And so every turn you must move a unit. So we'll click on this guy and move him up here. And then you'll have the choice of using this Force March card to move him an extra movement point if you want to. And we're just going to say no and hold on to that. And do you want to play a supply card for an extra move? You just say no. And then it goes through certain phases. Since we don't have anything to do in the redoubt phase, which is basically place a redoubt on your unit, we'll click OK. And then it'll switch over to the French player's card. So first option is to discard cards, which we don't want to do, right? It's early in the game, so all of our units are live on the board. We'll continue without selecting. And now we're going to look at moving. So let's move our cavalry up. And so the object of this game is to either defeat, I believe it's 4 or 5 of the enemy units, or take as much territory on the other side of the board that's uncontested. So you'll get past the halfway point, and you'll score points for all of the territory that's not contested around you too. So it's you have to read the rules a little bit, or look on Board Game Geek and see if you can find um, player aid that's helpful. There are some good ones out there. It's important to understand the phases of the game. So there's the discard phase first. Then there's playing the special action cards, I believe. Then you move your units, and then you play a card to do an attack. You don't have to play an attack on the unit you just moved, but you have to have a card in order to play an attack. So we're not going to discard. We're going to move a unit, and we're going to move this guy here. And we're going to play a force march just to get him up against that guy on the mountain. So that city will protect him. And we don't want to use that. Redoubt. So we didn't have any cards to play an attack for this 30-second unit to attack. All we have is the 50-second and the 4th. So we need to go back over here. And hopefully that the cavalry over here does not have a card to play against us, but we'll continue. And we'll click on the unit to be moved. We do not have a cavalry card. So we'll get this horse running up. And we'll switch turns here. So that's pretty much the gist of how to get it going. You can see it's pretty easy to play, and hope you get a chance to play the game. I'm going to see if I can pull up a Board Game Geek article real quick here. So you're going to go to Board Game Geek and look for Ranger Rob's Maneuver Quick Reference, and this is a great little player aid that kind of goes through the game. For what we're using it for War Game Room module, most of the game setup is kind of done automatically, except for placing the units here. You choose your side, you choose your terrain, you take turns choosing there, and then so the sequence of play is really important to understand. So the discard phase is when you can get rid of cards in your hand, and mostly what you're looking for is units that you can put into combat using. You have 5 cards, right? And you have 8 units on the board, so there's a probability that you might not have a card to attack somebody with, and you have to do an attack or you have to do an offend. So most cards either have an attack value or a defend value, or possibly a bombard and a volley value. So bombard is like shooting a cannon 2 hexes away. Volley is shooting, I believe, 1 hex away. So going back to the phases, the discard phase, get rid of a card you don't want. The draw phase, get 5 cards back up into your hand. The movement phase, you move any unit. Doesn't matter if you have a card for it or not. And then you can move 1 or 2 squares for cavalry. Supply card allows you to move an extra unit. A force march card lets you move an extra space. Then you go into combat. So your unit has to be next to somebody to declare a combat. So um, if you have a 50-second regiment, you have to have a 50-second regiment card to play the attack. When you play the attack, you'll notice that the card has a attack value on it and a defensive value. So you can use the attack value for attacks and defensive values for defense. So you'll play a card to attack, and it'll be a die roll plus that card against the opponent. And then the opponent will be able to play a card if they have their own card to protect themselves. So if you're attacking a cavalry unit, if they have a card for that, they can use that as part of their defense. That's pretty much it. You flip the unit, and then if you flip it twice, it's basically out of the game. And then if you go through the combat results, you can see whether the unit is either defender choice to hit a retreat, attacker's choice to defend a retreat, or hit a retreat. If you do 3 times damage on it, it's a hit and a retreat, and 4 times defense, the unit is eliminated. So I highly recommend this game. This player is really good at helping you get started with it. I hope you get a chance to play it solo and maybe online too, or even buy the game. Again, it's great for clubs because you can have several games running at the same time. Um, the cards are nice and flexible. There's also an expansion for it out. So you can mix and match pretty much any army that you want if you decide you want to go more historical, like French versus British, or do something a little crazy like Swedish versus Americans and stuff. You can still have fun with that. So I hope you get a chance to play the game. This is a great way to learn how to play it and kind of fool around with the system before you go live with the game. And take care. Stay safe.